What do you like to do with your brothers?
Together, we can do anything.
A bit of the trailer for The Iron Claw, a new film out today that throws some serious punches. It's based on the true story of a family of professional wrestlers from Texas. They fight their way to the top inside the ring and battle a tragically dysfunctional family dynamic outside of it.
Yes, sir.
Oh, man, that makes me so happy.
Can I talk to you about something, Mom? Dad's too tough on us. You gotta say.
Of course, Eli is here on this Friday to throw down his review. So, Eli,
I don't know if I packed enough wrestling moves or metaphors.
You got some serious guns under there. Okay, does this film punch above its weight class?
It's an interesting question. I mean, I think there's so much anticipation. This is a very special story to wrestling fans. I think in some ways, not to give too much away, but a bit of a tragic story. And so the changes and how it lives up to the lore is really interesting. I would say, like, above its weight, perhaps, but there are some issues. So let's back up a little. As you mentioned, so this comes from Canadian director Sean Durkin. He wrote this, he directed this, he's been working on this thing for years. He wouldn't talk to members of the actual Von Erich family until he finished working on his script, because he didn't want to be affected by what they experienced. He didn't want to be lured in. So he wrote the story and then brought this to film. This is the somewhat true story of the Von Erichs. There's the family photo. Wrestling dynasty from Texas, where multiple sons battled for fame and fortune in the ring, working for that guy in the cowboy hat, Fritz, their father's expectations. He was a famous wrestler, and they're all trying to kind of live up to his love. So this is a rough and tumble family of faith. They're God-fearing people growing up in Texas in the 1970s and 80s. So there's an aesthetic to this film. Think of American Hustle, very much like amazing soundtrack about diving into that time period, but really driven by Fritz, the mean papa who was the villainous wrestler and now is laying down the law with his sons. Let's take a look.
Terry, I want you to join your brothers in the ring.
Yes, sir. I love that.
Woo! Now, we all know Kerry's my favorite, then Kev, then David, then Mike. But the rankings can always change.
The ranking. Can you imagine a father just saying, like, you're my favorite, but not yet, but maybe if you'd, like, that's what it was like in that household. Now, fans of the Bear might just sat up a little. Wait, is that Chef? Yeah, that's Jeremy Allen Wright. He's one of this whole just group of wrestling brothers, but Zac Efron is the main attraction here as Kevin. Yes, High School Musical, Zac Efron, but he is massive. Like, his back has another back on top of it. And so he looks like the Hulk, but the really interesting thing is there is like a childlike thing to this guy. You see him wake up in his bed in the family home. He's got this sad little kid's blanket, and then he lumbers off to the gym to work out, to lift weights. So he's the biggest, he's the strongest. You might say he's the hardest worker, but it's wrestling, right? So it's not just about how big you are. It's not about how much you can lift and your flips. You got to rock the mic. You got to bring the game. And that's where his brother David, he might not be as big, but he's got that swagger. Let's take a look with a little love from Rush.
Together, we can do anything.
We're here to restore justice to the Wrestling Federation that our father built with his own two hands. The hands that will pass down to us. The hands that will deliver the Iron Claw to you.
The Iron Claw. So that was like their father's famous move. He puts his hand on your face and he applies pressure. And the sons, they kind of kept that legacy going when they're wrestling. But really what this is about is a toxic cage match of masculinity, right? In that they're all trying to get their father's love. There's not a lot of talk there. There's not a lot of conversation. And he's just pushing and pushing until things break and just keeps on pushing.
Keeps on pushing. Okay, Zac Efron in this cast, and you know, there's a lot of buzz about the cast. Clearly, it's not, the High School Musical Zac Efron. He put on a bit of weight here, right? Let's talk about the performances of the cast.
He put on a bit of weight, but he's also showing off his acting chops. Like, you have never seen such an amazing performance from Zac Efron. And I think it's one of these interesting things where an actor gets a little older and they're not, you know, the magazine idol anymore.
Sure.
So they actually have a little more license to be interesting, to push themselves as an actor. And the thing with this guy is, like, yeah, he looks like a brute, but there's a tenderness, there's a vulnerability that I've never seen from Zac Efron before. And so much of this movie comes down to this guy, Kevin, kind of battling for his father's love. And then again, that acknowledgement that we're in a bad place, and even reaching out to the mother and saying, you need to intervene. Let's take a look.
Can I talk to you about something, Mom? Dad's too tough on us. You gotta say something.
Baby, that's what your brothers are for.
Feel that? You feel that? That's pressure.
So there is no lack of pressure, and there is what actually happened with this family, and there are then choices that the director, Sean, made as a filmmaker just to make the film a little more palatable. But even there, where we ultimately end up, it is a tough road, and I do wonder if we actually got more of an inside view of the father's head. Like, he is such a force here. He is such a villain that it's kind of unrelenting. But rather than making him a monster, helping us understand what was going on there instead of just being this engine for destruction, I think that would have helped the movie work a little better. There's an amazing article written by Jen Yamato from the LA Times where she interviewed the Canadian director and really runs down what was in the movie, what happened in real life. Don't read it first. Okay. Go see this film and then read her article.
Let me ask you real quick, because we got to run. Do you need to be a wrestling fan to see this movie?
No, because it's about that bond between brothers, and it's about living up to your father's expectations, and then everything else is aesthetics.
There you
go. I'm going to give you my rating. 3.5 stars.
3.5 stars.
Out of 5.
Okay, good stuff. Eli Glasner in the ring this morning, throwing it down. Appreciate it, Eli. This looks like a good one.